Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Keck's Hillbilly Think Tank. Hey, welcome, Cindy here in Hardin County, Steve in Hardin County, and Pete. You go back and forth between Hardin County and Meade. Not sure quite, which one you like the most, but hopefully we can get you to be a Hardin County man. Anyway, I am here tonight to talk about education, since that's my favorite thing in life. Almost consider it my religion. I really got excited back in 1990, right after I joined the military, and I was home on leave. My dad talked to me about a law that had just passed called the Kentucky Education Reform Act. That was back in 1990, like I said. He hoped and thought that it would surely give equity for all the schools from Paducah to Pikeville as it was intended. And we seem to maybe have had some success with this, I believe. More schools now have funding that they didn't have originally. I've got family all over the state, Hardin County, Fayette County, and Eastern Kentucky. And I really have noticed that the schools are given a bit more attention than they did in the past. But we still don't fall anywhere near the top 10, top 20 when it comes to education in this nation. And we need to. We're way better than that. We shouldn't be as low as we are on the list. I would hope that since 1990, we've had 35 years for this education reform to really make a difference. Now, tonight, just so happened, I was at Radcliffe's Cultural Festival, and I got to see some of my former students. It was really exciting. They, all three of them that I saw tonight, have gone off to college, and we're able to talk about what they're planning on studying. They were some of my best students, so it was really exciting. One of them wanted to go into bioengineering. I was able to encourage her, like, hey, my son's going to speed school at U of L. You should go over there and give it a look. She's currently going to ECTC, Elizabethtown Community and Technical College, which is exciting. She wanted to stay near home for the first 2 years, help her dad with his business, which is a great business. They actually have a food truck on Fort Knox, and just a wonderful family, hardworking, honest folks, a veteran dad, and just wonderful, wonderful folks. So it was good to see her out there getting that education, putting it to use, because she was one of my brightest. Also, another young man came by, and we got to talk, and he is studying finance with minoring in psychology. He was telling me his plans and how much money he plans on making with all the studying he's doing. Just exciting. And his girlfriend, who was also a student of mine, she is doing a degree undergrad to go on and get into medical school later. So basically pre-med. So that was exciting to see too, because I just really push all my students, if they've got the mental wherewithal, they push themselves in school. Don't settle for anything but the best in life. Don't be the bartender when you can own the bar. Don't be the barmaid when you can be the bartender. You know, just work your way up, own it. You know. So that was advice that was given me years ago. That was kind of the analogy I still like to use when I was trying to decide whether to stay enlisted or get a college education and move up. And someone gave me that the advice about that. I thought that was pretty cool. Well, looking at the Kentucky Education Reform Act, I can see that the students here in Hardin County, our county is improving. It's improving in value, which is increasing our tax rate. when it comes to the homes. And of course, that's where the schools all get their funding. So looking at that, that next comes seek money. So that's support education excellence and Kentucky funding. Every school, the money that the state gives and spreads out equitably, they say, is assessed according to how much money the county can bring in for their students. And every student that actually comes to school in attendance on a regular basis, the school is paid according to those students who actually come and sit in the seats. So that's why it's really important for everybody to make sure your kid goes to school, doesn't play hooky. Your neighbor, if you know your neighbor's kids playing hooky, man, make sure they go to school. Because if they're at least sitting in the seat, even if they're going there like some students I've had, and their whole idea is they want to see how much they can get away with not completing, when it comes to schoolwork. Well, at least if they're sitting in the seat, there's money coming in for that head that's sitting in the seat. And if they won't use it, at least there's money there to pay teachers for those students that want to, because we need to get everyone educated as much as possible. To do that, we need to have quality teachers that are there being paid to give a quality education. But you can't do it if you don't have the students in the seats, if you don't have the tax base, and you don't have a society willing to value teachers and kids getting a good education. So, just my rant. Like I said before, came from a family where both grandfathers were college educated. One was a lawyer, a judge, circuit court judge in Eastern Kentucky. He had been the commissioner of Kentucky Highways. He valued education. My grandfather, that was a country doctor in Eastern Kentucky, went from dire poverty to being, upper middle class for Eastern Kentucky, treating everybody he could, taking care of everyone that he possibly could, pushing for everyone to have better education, to have better job opportunities. And if he wasn't working a 12-hour a day, 7 days a week, taking care of patients, he was squeezing in community service work to get politicians to actually do what they're supposed to do, which is take care of you and me, the working class. And you can't do that if you don't have well-educated folks. This is not the 1920s anymore. We're living at a time when you need that high school education at a bare minimum. Really, we need to at least have a 2-year degree. Whether it's a trade school, be a certified HVAC operator, and to be a mechanic, get that good certification. In these technical day and age, being a mechanic is not exactly what it used to be either. It takes even more than it did way back when. It's always been a very demanding job, but you need certifications. You need that education to get it. And then let's just admit, we don't have enough teachers in America. We don't have enough nurses. We don't have enough doctors. How do we get more? Well, our citizens have to have an education that's rigorous and that is valued so that they can move into these high demand jobs that we don't have enough people filling. We need more engineers, that we need this STEM education to be taken seriously. But how do we do that? We've got to get our politicians to realize funding education means everything. And part of that funding education is getting those kids to school, getting them in there, not just to school, but paying the teachers so they can make sure they're delivering what each of those students needs to realize that education does mean something. It's not a joke, that you actually will use it later on in life. Well, sorry for getting on my soapbox. Hope y'all have a great night. Hope you get to see some young person impacted by something you've said or done that sets them on the path to being very productive members of our wonderful county, Hardin County, or wonderful members of Kentucky. They move out of the county or anywhere in the United States. Education is it. If I didn't have my education, I wouldn't be who I am. Y'all have a great night. Let's love everybody, love one another, take care of each other because we are our brother's keeper. Have a great one. And don't forget to vote for me when it comes time to vote for magistrate in Hardin County. Thank you.